Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and today we are previewing the NFC Wildcard Games. You've seen our last episode with Freddie and Sky from the Franchise Tag podcast previewing the AFC games, but now we're going to take our turns to preview the NFC games, and these are the Panthers hosting the Los Angeles Rams, the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the 49ers, and also the the Bears hosting the Packers. And with me today, I've got two guests that are both fans of two teams involved in one of the three games. So first of all, in the blue and yellow corner, we have today our Rams fan in Sam Andrews. Sam, good to have you on. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for inviting me on. Looking forward to thankfully another playoff run. Hopefully it'll end slightly better than the last one, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I can picture that, that Saquon Barkley run in, I believe, was it the divisional round?
In the snow.
The snow, of course. Yeah, that was I think that run and with the snow, and it was quite a great image. I thought that image of him running when they showed it in the slow motion as well, with the snow behind it, I thought it was a really good image we got from that game, and NFL Films did a great job. And I think that you'll be hoping not the same again this weekend.
Hopefully.
Well, in our other corner, in the slightly lighter version of blue and white corner, we have our Panthers fan, Keg, from the Panthers Magpie. Keg, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. Very, very excited for this one. It's the first time in a long time that we're talking Panthers playoff football. So, yeah, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for the Rams, it's business as usual, first playoff appearance since a year ago. But for the Panthers, it's your first playoff appearance since 2017 and your first appearance as division champions since 2015. We'll go on to you first, Keg, because, the Rams had their playoff spot sealed weeks ago. But, of course, the Panthers secured it in a quite unique way of, losing a game, having to wait a day to find out you made the playoffs. I mean, we were talking DMs about how bad the officiating was, but how was that experience for you? Was it? This has to be surely the best ever loss you've ever experienced as a fan.
In some ways, yeah. But it wasn't pleasant. Like, obviously, you want to do things on your own terms. Like, we should have had it done. Like, we missed opportunities. We missed a couple opportunities. Like, we probably knew we weren't going to beat the Seahawks. We probably should have beat the Buccaneers. As we said, we lost by 2 points, but due to some horrific officiating, some of the worst I've ever seen in the NFL. Absolutely disgusting. But yeah, we lost 2 games against the Saints. So yeah, it's our fault. We should have had it tied up earlier than this. Like, we didn't want to have to rely on. You don't want to root for the Buccaneers, the Saints, or the Falcons. So yeah, it was messy. It was ugly. We didn't want to do it that way. It was far too stressful. Hopefully we'll never have to do that again. But fate sealed it for us. Like I say, it wasn't the way that we wanted to do it. You can't really take too much pride in going through to the playoffs with a losing record, and having a rival doing you a favor. So yeah, it was pretty ugly, but we're here. Someone had to win the division. We won enough games to at least have an even record, and we won on the head-to-head. So here we are.
Yeah, you mentioned that. We talked a little bit about it in our Week 18 review with Rory Jones, was the fact that there's a narrative going around that that they should first of all have the division seedings, the playoff seeding for each conference be by record rather than division winners. And there'd be even a further narrative going on recently about if you win your division, you should if you have a losing record, you shouldn't necessarily be in the playoffs just because you won your division. I personally think that's absolutely rubbish. I think if you win your division, no matter what the record is, I think you deserve a spot in the playoffs, and I think you deserve a chance to host the game because I think, first of all, I think why break something that's a tradition that's been going on for years? It's worked for 100 years. Why change it now? But I just feel like, it just completely, eliminates that sort of prize to winning the division. And it makes division games meaningless then sometimes in Week 18. Keg, of course, no point asking you because you'll be, I'm sure, very much in favour of losing records, making the playoffs this year. But Sam, for you, as someone who's used to seeing your team have winning records most years, what's your thoughts on that? Do you sort of share my agreement that keep as it is, or would you potentially change the playoff seedings to make it either of those scenarios I just talked about?
I'm very much in the same corner as you. I think, if you were to get rid of divisional winners getting a spot in the automatic spot in the playoffs and also a home fixture, then you may as well just dump divisions and have NFC and AFC. That's it. Just leave it at that, and then have the top 11 teams. Don't worry, just completely scrap divisionals altogether. And I think you lose so much of the rivalries in that, because then you may as well then say, well, you don't need to play 6 divisional games every year. You can just play a mixture of NFC and AFC games. So I think it would lose a lot of the fight and the bite that you get in divisional games and the importance of those divisional games. So to me, it never sits right that, just because, but the thing is, every year you're going to have some divisions are always going to be a bad division. And most years, there is at least usually someone who doesn't have a losing record in your division, but sometimes it happens that you do. And it's just the luck of the draw and how the teams are playing at that time. It happens. But I think to scrap it would just be a really silly idea, to be honest. I think it would just, like I say, devalues the point of winning your division.
I totally agree. Let's move on to the game itself. Now, Keg, you were actually at this exact fixture earlier in the year. You attended the game in week 13 in Carolina, as the Panthers did beat the Rams in somewhat surprising fashion. At that point, you were 7-6. The Buccaneers, sort of in their season, they started off 6-2. Did you ever expect, when you were playing the Rams at that point of the year, Buccaneers free falling was starting, but I think people were still probably predicting the Buccaneers to win that division. In week 13, they were actually that far off you. But did you ever think, when you were going to watch that Rams Panthers game in Carolina, that you were going to be seeing that again in the playoffs?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like I said, we were kind of creeping up there while the Buccaneers were kind of falling off a little bit. So we were closing the gap. So there was a little bit of a murmur kind of within like the Panthers fan base that we could win the division. If we beat the Buccaneers twice, we've got them still to come. If we win them games, I think we still had the Saints to come up, which we expected to win, which obviously we didn't. There was games there to be won. There was a little bit of a murmur. There was kind of a bit, I'd call it false hope. There was a hope, even though I don't know who actually believed the hope and who didn't. I didn't really realistically think that we would be making the playoffs as divisional champions, which obviously you have to be in the NFC South because this is a poor division. Realistically, you have to win the division to get into the playoffs. There isn't a wild card place for the second place team in the NFC South because no one's going to get a record good enough to clinch that wild card spot. The hope was there, but I always fancied the Buccaneers to kind of pick it back up, maybe beat us both games, at least one. I did fancy us to split the series, but yeah, I did fancy the Buccaneers to kind of win more games than what they did down the back end of the stretch. I think they won like 3 out of the last 11 games or something crazy like that. They had a horrible end to the year. We overtook them and we snatched it. So yeah, I'm just grateful that we're here and they're not.
And there's an important question for you, Keg. Who wins on Saturday? For those listening or watching at home, it's a 9:30 p.m. kickoff in the UK. That means it's 4:30 Eastern. Keg, how are you seeing the game and who wins it?
Realistically, it's probably going to be the Rams, isn't it? They're 10.5-point favorites, but they were 10-point favorites when we beat them. And I think we've got a much better team on paper now because we missed a lot of players in that game, especially on defense. A defense that picked Matt Stafford off twice, a pick 6, after he broke the record for throwing 28 touchdowns against 0 interceptions. So yeah, we picked him off twice after that, a pick 6, 2 sacks, including a forced fumble that ended up winning us the game. But that game, we were missing JC Horn. We were missing Trevon Merrick. We were missing Christian Roseboom. Even a couple of backup players like Claude Corey Thornton probably would have started at cornerback instead of JC Horn had he have been available, but he was injured. Claude Cherilus would have started instead of Christian Roseboom if he was fit, but he wasn't. So we had like fourth choice linebackers, fourth choice corners. We would have had a backup safety. We've had a backup nickel. That was a lot of change in that game. So we weren't at our very, very best. So, don't rule us out. And just before we went live there, we announced that Robert Hunt's been reactivated off of IR. So our offensive line's stronger than what it was. So any given Sunday, like, you can talk about the records, you can talk about who won what game or who won what division, but in the playoffs, everyone's 0-0. Everyone's got something to play for in the playoffs. So why can't the Carolina Panthers go and win it? We've already done it once with a lesser team in the rain. So yeah, the game's there for the taking, but realistically, I'm going to still say that Sean McVay is not going to get beat twice by the Carolina Panthers. So yeah, using me head over me heart, I still think it'll be close. I think everyone's kind of writing the Panthers off, that the Rams are going to absolutely whitewash us. I don't see it being that way. I see it maybe being somewhere between 6 to 10 points, maybe. Like, the Rams are going to take it, I believe. But yeah, I think it could be 8, something like that. But yeah, we'll keep it feisty, we'll keep it interesting, and we'll keep it close.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you can always guarantee about the playoffs, that you get some shocks. You get the odd game where it's a whitewash, it's a 15, 20 or more point game. But you get some shocks now and again. I mean, last year you probably look at the Lions Commanders game in the divisional round, and I think this sort of wildcard round, I think there's only really 2 games you could think of that probably are going to be surprises. I mean, you think about this game and probably think about the Steelers Texans on paper. That is, I think that there's definitely, I think with the way the league's been this year, there's not really been an outstanding team. You might have said, the Packers until Parsons went down, or the Rams until a few weeks ago, but it's not really been like, last season you had the Lions 15-2, Chiefs had the same record, you had the Eagles weren't far behind, and we had one of the best ever rushing seasons from a player in history. This season hasn't had these powerhouse teams, these outstanding teams. It's been great as a result of that. As a neutral, my team's not in the playoffs, and for me, it's been great. As long as the Bills and Pats don't make it in the Super Bowl, then I don't mind who wins it. So for me, it's been great, and I think that's why you aren't going to get many shocks, I don't think, this year. Apart from maybe you get like a shock is in like a team's 28-3 down. Sorry, Falcons fans, but I think this is the one game where I think we would see a shock. And for me personally, I have gone for the Rams as well, because I just feel like this is a little bit of too much of a golfing class. Now it's in Carolina, and the Rams have beat it. Sorry, the Panthers haven't beat the Rams this season already. We mentioned it before, you at the game, Keg. But for you, Sam, just the fact that you only lost by 3 points in what was an off day for Matt Stafford give you confidence that, provided Matt Stafford's at least half of his normal self, that he can get the job done. Yeah,
I mean, I think probably one of the things that is, I'll start with saying I don't think this is going. If I was, betting, I'd be betting on the Panthers 10.5. I've said this on the Hurdle the Line pod, which was out today, I think. If Fletch got it out. If Fletch got it out, I don't know if he got it out yet, but I did say that I think it's going to be a 7-point game. I just, every game that we've played this season, apart from the odd ones like the Cardinals and that, I don't think there's been too many games where we've really sort of blown a team out. Even when we've sort of blown them out offensively, we've always allowed them back in, even if it's just to build up a score and to get them back within 7 points. I think this Panthers team are unpredictable. I think it's probably the best way I can describe them, because, some days, I mean, we all know what Bryce Young can do, and on both positively and negatively, we've seen the best of him. I think we've seen some of the worst of him over a few years, but I still think there's a relatively good quarterback in there who just needs, I think a lot of it is confidence and having the team around him. that defense is still solid. It has a few pieces, obviously, it needs adding to it, but it's still good. And I think probably one of the biggest positives for Panthers will be the fact that Kevin Dotson isn't playing for us in that in right guard. So if I'm the Panthers, I'm going to be lining Derek Brown up against Diedick every single snap because that is our weak point now. But we have got Quentin Lake back, who didn't feature in that Carolina Panthers game, who I think has been extremely important to the way that we defend. I think you look at before he went out injured, we were first in pass coverage, we were first or second in a lot of defensive stats. And then since then, we were like down the bottom, 27th, 28th, 31st. So it's been a drastic change since losing Quentin Lake. Something I didn't think I'd ever say, to be honest, but there we go. I just think if Stafford turns up like he did in 90% of games that he has done this year, bar the 2 games where he threw essentially pick sixes against the Panthers and against the Falcons, I don't see an issue with us losing this game. But I also don't think, I think a lot of people just think, oh, we're the favourites for the Super Bowl from what everyone's been saying. We'll absolutely demolish the Panthers. I don't think that'll be the case because, as we've been here before, wildcard games are wildcard games. Anything can happen. Teams turn up. And I think probably the most dangerous thing about the Panthers is this is a free hit for them. They never, I think, probably start of the season, no one ever expected them to be in the playoffs, let alone, winning their division, let alone being in the playoffs and all of that. So I just think for them, it's like they're playing with house money at this play. They can just throw whatever they want, throw in a few fourth down trick plays, fake punts and all of that. They can do whatever they want and just play their own game. And I think that they'll put up a fight. And, I always think that the most dangerous teams are the teams that have nothing to lose, because at the end, I know it's a playoff game, but the Panthers don't have anything to lose. They're already, I would say, a good 2-3 steps ahead of probably where they expected to be this year. So I think for me, that's the more dangerous side of it. And I think, if they can get the running game going, which we all know that, the likes of Dowdle and Hubbard are very dangerous on the ground. If he can start getting Tet into the game again, he's a serious threat. I think they can easily put up points against us. I'll make no light of the fact that I think our secondary is poor. Overall, has been poor for a number of years. It's one of the weakest areas of our defense. We make flashy plays at times. Get interceptions and that, but overall, I think we allow too many yards. But I think I think there is still a gulf in class in terms of what we have on offense compared to what the Panthers have on offense. I do think that gap will slowly close. I think, there's a lot of good young players on that team. So overall, I think I think we'll win, but I think it'll be a 7-point win, and I think it'll be more so either we get a sustainable lead and get up by like 3 scores and then just allow, the Panthers start creeping back into the game and putting a bit of pressure on us. Or it'll be neck and neck the whole game and then we'll just get the final touchdown. And, as we've done in multiple playoff games, our D line just steps up and does everything that it needs to.
You make a good point about the lack of pressure and what the Panthers will have this year. And I think, I think winning the division was almost like their Super Bowl. That was something that they really wanted to get done. And we think about last year, we were saying the same things about the Panthers this year as we were about the Commanders last year. People were saying, and even the Texans the year before, they're not really where they're way ahead of where we thought they'd be. And the Commanders went out and took on the line to the 1 seed, the favourites for the Super Bowl, certainly to win the NFC. And they gave them a real good beating. And I think, I think playing the, I think, I don't know. I don't think this will be one of those occasions where they go out and, and they go out and beat the Rams. But I think I've seen creative things. I've seen creative things in the playoffs. again, I think again, there's a reason why the Rams, are fifth or sixth. When we were talking as if they're division champions, it's there's definitely holes in this team, because if there weren't holes in this team, they'd have won the division and would be 15-2, would be 16-1, or maybe 17-0. So I think Sam mentioned that this is is the secondary, and he got McMillan there, who can guy who became I think the second rookie in history to have 1,000 receiving yards. So they got the threat there. Dowdle can, provided he doesn't try and do a flea flicker in the rain, that Dowdle should be able to, cause some sort of problem for the Rams. So, yeah, I don't think a win for the Panthers is completely out of the realm, but I do think personally this is probably the easiest one to predict personally in thinking the Rams. But again, I'm not going to be shocked, because playoffs are the playoffs, and it really puts the Wild in the wild card. I do believe this round. But
I think if it wasn't my team, I'd be wanting the Panthers to win, because I think it's that idea of, it's the underdog story, isn't it? Everyone wants an underdog to win.
Everybody loves an underdog, yeah.
Yeah, but next year, I really don't. We don't need that after everything that we've gone through with all the debates around May and Stafford to the MVP. Let's just settle that now and just beat the Panthers, not be embarrassed or anything like that. We'll just deal with that later.
Yeah, let's move on to a game that I think I'm still umming and ahhing now for this game. Who I think is going to win? It's the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the 49ers at Lincoln Financial Field. This is the 3rd seed in the NFC against the 6th seed. Keg, we'll go back to you. Who for you wins this game?
For me, I'm going to take the Eagles at home. I think Lincoln Financial Field, especially in the playoffs, hostile place. Like it's a frightening place to go. Players don't like playing there. The fans are very aggressive, and they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. Like they've had a really good run in the playoffs over the past however many years, like 3-4 years. They've gone the majority of the distance, won one, lost one. Yeah, I think the 49ers are a really good team on paper, but there is a lot of holes in that team. I feel like they should be better than what they are. We played them on Monday Night Football the week before the Rams, and where we lost JC Horn and Trevor Merrick. And they weren't really that good until the end, where people were starting to get injured. Like we were in the game. I mean, the offense was terrible. That was kind of part of the problem. If we had a half-competent offense, we would have won that game easily. But yeah, because we were keep losing loads of defensive players in the second half, they were able to start to run away with it. I think the Eagles are just a little bit of a better team than that. So yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles at home.
Fair. Sam, how about you?
I mean, there's a bit of bias in who I want to win, and it's usually not the Eagles. But in this case, I can't back the 49ers to win. I can never do it. So, but I think the biggest thing is that the 49ers defense has been decimated. I think there's a lot of rookies playing on that defense, and they do make up a lot of mistakes. And obviously, I think the Eagles defense has really started off quite rocky. But the last few weeks it's really sort of nailed down its position in being a top defense. I think the only worry for me is, and it has been all year, is getting all those pieces on offense to work in tandem like they did last year. I mean, if I was to say anything to their offensive lineman, who I think could potentially be out of a job at the end of this year, no matter what happens, is just give Saquon the ball. Just give him the damn ball and let him run, because he'll do stuff. We've seen I've unfortunately seen him do it to us twice last year, and you know how dangerous he is. So I think they just need to do that. And I think with potentially Trent Williams maybe not being available, I think he was limited practice on Thursday. I don't think they've released their Friday report yet. So it's possible that he won't be playing, which I think would be a huge loss. I just think that there's a lot there that, as good as they can be on offense, I think their defense is just too weak enough to keep up with a team like the Eagles. And like I say, Lincoln Financial Field is an absolute cauldron to go into. But I don't think anyone ever wants to go and play there in the playoffs. I think the only probably saving grace is the fact that, Shanahan's managed to get this team to 12-5, given all the problems he's had with, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and that. I mean, he's done a great job there. But yeah, I think this may just be one step too far for them. And again, I think it's probably one of those situations where they maybe didn't think that they were going to potentially be playoff contenders this year with how everything had gone. Losing the pieces that they had, obviously losing Fred Warner, which is absolutely massive. So I don't think that they expected to be playoff contenders. Certainly not for the first half of the season, but yeah, I just think the Eagles are going to be too strong for them, and I think that they'll. Again, I think it'll be a tight game, a 3-point game or something like that. But yeah, I just think the Eagles will probably win out.
Well, it's a clean sweep. I have also gone for the Eagles to win this game. Now, I think this is going to be, as you probably expect it to be. I think it's going to be a potentially McCaffrey against Barkley sort of game. I think it's going to be whichever running back is better, it plays better in the game might be a difference. But at the same time, I think the Eagles can win games without Barkley playing well. You saw that in the Super Bowl. Barkley was not the star man of that game against the Chiefs, and they still demolished them. But I think if McCaffrey's not playing well for the Niners, I think that, even though they got Kittle, and I love Purdy, I think he's quite underrated. I do think if McCaffrey gets stopped, I think that's a big part. I'm sure you know full well, Keg, what that's like. If McCaffrey's not fully, in the game, I think that can hurt the team. And I just think it's been a great story for the Niners. I think they've been a great example of how to run a team in terms of overcoming injuries, being able to overcome, losing this player and that player, and players getting older, and poor season last year, for their standards. But I just think maybe this is a bit too far. I think as well that loss against the Seahawks, I think, is really damaging, because I do believe if they were at home, if they got the number 1 seed, they had the week off, they had the home advantage throughout the whole potentially rest of the playoffs, I would have a lot more faith in them, because they haven't got to travel. But I do think as well, traveling from the West Coast to East Coast does take it out of you. I know they're probably used to it, but I do believe that that can have an impact. And I think even George Kittle's talked about it having an impact. But for me, I just think, this is one step too far. I think it's in the link. I think I'd back them to win away from home in Green Bay, Chicago. But I think the link is just a different kettle of fish. It's one of the worst places to go, I think, on the road, personally. The fans are hostile. It's a loud place to go, and it's going to be obviously going to finish the night, and that stadium is built for a night game. So for me, and I'm sorry for all Niners fans listening, and friends of the show, Paul Hope and Ollie Hope and Phil, and all the Niners fans who are listening to this, hoping that I'll say the Niners. No, I think personally it's the Eagles. So yeah, that is a clean sweep from us. Now, we are going to now include some sound bites from fans or / guests who have been on the show this year, who are fans of these teams involved. So first up with Eagles Niners, let's head to friend of the show, Steve McGuinness, who is one of our Eagles fans.
Evening, Andy. So this is my prediction for this weekend's Eagles-Niners game. It's going to be a tough one for us, because I think anyone who's watched us the last half of the season knows we have struggled against the run game. And obviously Run CMC is sitting in there, arguably best running back in the league. Kittle is there, back, fit, healthy, arguably top 3 tight end in the league. But we are forgetting one very important thing. Brock Purdy is at quarterback, and I have said since day one, the Niners will never win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy as the quarterback, and I can stand to that. What this is going to mean is the Niners are going to have to grind the game out. It's going to be short yardage, short plays for their offense, because our secondary has been absolutely amazing. Quinion Mitchell elected to the Pro Bowl again this year. Cooper DeJean sitting in there in that little kind of in between the two cornerbacks. Just not being a safety, but just being exceptional. And that alone is going to basically dent the Niners passing game. So hopefully the Eagles do what we always do, which is get out to an early start, a couple of quick scores first quarter, maybe 14, 17 points before the half. Then the defense will take over, absolutely grind the Niners into the ground. The run game will fail to materialize because it's Kevin Patullo offense, and we're getting really sick of this, Kevin. You know, it might be time for you to move on. And the Eagles should win this. It's not going to be pretty, this game. It's not going to be high scoring. Eagles to win 17-14. All right, take it.
What's up across the pod fans? Paul Hope, 49er Faithful UK, and I'm here to give my thoughts on this weekend's NFC Wildcard Showdown between my 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. My 49ers are heading into Philly as the number 6 seed, but don't let that fool you. People are of course talking about our Week 18 loss to Seattle, but they're forgetting one thing, Andy. This 12-5 squad is built for January football, and we've seen this movie before. Of course, 49ers fans remember the 2023 NFC Championship game, but we also remember coming back into Philadelphia a year later and dropping 42 points on the Eagles. First reason we win this game, the best offensive duo in the NFL. Brock Purdy isn't just managing games, he's leading them. He enters this postseason as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and when he's clean in the pocket, he is lethal. Add the engine, Christian McCaffrey. CMC is the heartbeat of this offence. He finished the season with over 1,200 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. The Eagles' run defence has been vulnerable this year, ranking 24th in some metrics. If Kyle Shanahan gets CMC into the secondary, for me, it's game over. Add in Juwan Jennings, who's been a third down machine, and of course, the best tight end in football, George Kittle. That Eagles secondary is in for a game on Sunday night. Now, I know defensively we're missing a lot of people. Any defence missing Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and pretty much the whole linebacker core, which is what the 49ers are facing. But next man up isn't just a cliche in San Francisco, Andy. It's the culture. Our defence has outperformed all season thanks to Robert Saleh, and the bend but not break mentality is real. The key here for me will be pressuring Jalen Hurts. We do need to collapse that pocket, and Bryce Huff, your revenge game is there, ready and waiting. This Eagles offence has been inconsistent this year. Some experts have even said they've fallen off a cliff in the terms of rhythm. If we can quiet the crowd, force some takeaways and prevent Barkley from big runs, Link Field will get quiet real fast. And finally, Andy, I take a look at the sidelines. Kyle Shanahan in the playoffs is a different beast. He's going to find that mismatch, whether it's George Kittle against their linebackers, Ricky Purcell, if healthy, stretching the field. I really feel that after last week, Kyle Shanahan is going to bounce back with a masterclass of play calling. I do appreciate the Eagles are favourites on paper, but my 49ers definitely play better as the underdog and with a chip on our shoulder. We've been written off all year. Let the doubters keep doubting, keep talking. The 49ers will answer all these and more on Sunday at 9:30. We're coming for that W. It's time to strike. As always, go Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Hi Andy, it's Ollie here from the Third and Long podcast. You wanted my predictions for the Philadelphia Eagles Niners playoff game on Sunday. So I'm going to be honest here. I don't think the Niners have much of a chance. With Trent Williams still not practicing, George Kittle and Pearsall both still limited, I don't hold up much hope. I think our run defense is going to be very weak against Saquon Barkley. I think our pass defense against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith is going to struggle. And unless Christian McCaffrey has a monster game and Purdy plays like he did against the Colts and the Bears and throws for 5 touchdowns, I don't hold out much hope. I think it could be the Eagles by a landslide, unfortunately.
We'll head on to our final game, and I did actually get the order wrong. I forgot that the Bears Packers was before Eagles-Niners on the schedule, but this is our second of 2 Saturday games as one of the oldest rivalries, or maybe the oldest rivalry in NFL happens with the two winningest teams in history in terms of wins in their franchise history. The Bears, 2nd seed, host the 7th seed Packers. I am so excited for this game. It's my favourite game in the NFL. Bears-Packers at Soldier Field. Cannot wait for this. Of course, we saw a preview of it a few weeks ago. Was it around Christmas time, week 16, week 15, where we saw one of the best games of the year. So this game should be on paper. If it's like what it was last time, it's going to be once again. Cue the meme, absolute cinema. For me, I'm going to let Sam go first. Sam, who wins it for you?
So I ummed and ahed about this and who I thought was going to win, and I did flip-flop a little bit, and I think there's something that needs to be said about experience in the playoffs. I think, there is a lot of pressure that comes with playing in a playoff game, and I think that sometimes that can be underestimated, especially for, players that are relied on and are expected to be the player that stands up in those situations. And I just think that, you watch that game against the Bears was it week 16, I think it was, which went to overtime. And before Jordan Love got injured, the Packers were all over them. They were dominating that game. And I think as long as Jordan Love stays fit and doesn't get injured on this game, I think that they'll just clinch the win again against the Bears. I think they've got more experience in terms of playoff experience. And I just think the team as a whole, as long as everyone's fit and available, is just that little bit better in terms of cohesion and understanding. I think the defense as a whole, obviously I know they don't have Micah Parsons, but I think the Packers defense is better. I know that Ezra and Cooper is due to play in this game, which is obviously a big boost for them. And I just think overall that they are slightly better, more like a team that's played with each other a lot more. I think that's probably what's going to get them the win in this one. Obviously, this being Caleb's first playoff game, I think potentially the pressure could get to him. And again, the same with Ben Johnson. I think it's his first playoff game as head coach, and I think that is a lot different to being the OC to being head coach. But I still think it'll be a really exciting game. I think it'll be really fun. Obviously, Caleb has really shone through the last few weeks. I think probably Bears fans are a little bit annoyed that they still don't have a 4,000-yard throwing quarterback, but he got very close to it, and I think he has shown signs this year that he is a very good quarterback. But I think I've edged it to the Packers just based upon experience and a team that's already been there versus a team that's kind of up and coming. But I think this will be great for the Bears in terms of moving forward and gaining some experience. I still don't think the Bears are completely out of it, but I just think the Packers will edge it.
Sam, you took the words out of my mouth. I think the exact same. I think the Packers as well. I think exactly what you said was my reasoning I wanted to talk about, was the fact that, they were having a great time against the Bears when they had, Jordan Love playing, and Malik Willis did a great job. But I will say that, he did himself proud. But the game completely changed when Jordan Love was not in it. And I do think as well, the Packers have been I think, quite poor since Parsons got injured. But I think in the division game, Packers, most of the time in recent years, they've beaten the Bears. I think the Packers be well up for this, and I think the Bears, I think this is a bad matchup for them. And I think as well, the Bears are 12-4 in 2018 under Matt Nagy in his first year as head coach. And we all know what happened then. Eagles fans will especially know what happened here with the double doink, Cody Parkey. And I'm not saying they're going to have that again, but I do believe that, we haven't seen Caleb Williams in the playoff game yet. We see a lot of quarterbacks over the years that excel in the regular season. We're talking about this in the AFC as well. There's certain quarterbacks that can excel in the regular season and then they crumble in the playoffs. And I'm not saying Caleb will do that because he's played in national championships. But for me, I just think it's just the worst possible matchup for the Bears to have as the road team. I think, for me, I just think we've seen as well Ben Johnson albeit as an OC, not head coach, call some crazy mad plays in that Commanders loss. And I just feel like with Jordan Love back, and I think the Packers will be winners. I do believe they'll get the job done. Now, will I be shocked if the Bears win? Absolutely not. I think there's not really many shocks that are going to happen this weekend. All results that happen, I'm going to be too shocked about. But yeah, give me the Packers to win. Now, Keg, is this going to be a clean sweep? Are you going for the Packers as well, or are you going for the home team?
It is going to be another clean sweep, yeah. But like Sam, I hummed and hard on this one as well. I think it is like a really hard one to call. Like this one certainly isn't easy. A lot of people probably will fancy the Bears as the number 2 seed, the winners of the NFC North. Obviously, the Packers being in that division as well. So yeah, they beat out the Packers to finish top of that division. I think Sam makes a good point with experience. Like the Packers aren't new to this. Like this is just kind of like another year or another playoff run for them. Like it's just kind of second nature to them. Like they know how to handle themselves, whereas the Bears are very new. Like you say, first-time quarterback, first-time head coach, getting themselves into the playoffs. I think that's just why. And I've fair play to the Bears. They have had a really, really good year to have the season that they have had. Like I certainly didn't expect it. Like all season long, I've been waiting for them to have a fall off. But that just never really came. Like they had a phenomenal year, and for some reason, there's been this weird kind of rivalry between like the Panthers and the Bears over the last few years. I think stemming from that trade for us to go up to number 1 to take Bryce Young with DJ Moore going the other way. I don't know why, because it seems to have stemmed from the Bears. Even though we done that favor, they wouldn't have had Caleb Williams if it wasn't for us, and we give them DJ Moore. So I don't know where this rivalries came from. So I've been waiting for that Bears fall off. I've been wanting them to lose, but they haven't. So now's that time. Now they're in the playoffs. I do like the Packers. They are one of like the first teams in the NFL that are grouped to like. I think it was the 2010 season Super Bowl where the Packers beat the Steelers. That was the first game I ever watched, and that was the game that got me into the NFL. So the Packers have always been like a soft spot team for me. And yeah, they have had a good year. Could have been better. They have had their fall-offs as well as losing to the Panthers, but that happens to some good teams, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm going to take the Packers. I think losing Micah Parsons is big. As long as we mentioned Edgerrin Cooper being back, as long as Jordan Love plays well, there's always that chance. I do think the Bears probably will be favourites and probably deservingly so due to their record and being the NFC North champs. But yeah, I'm probably going to take the underdog here and give it to the Packers.
I think it's one of those as well that, obviously we talked about Lincoln Financial being such a massive advantage for the Eagles against the Niners. I don't think Soldier Field is as much of an advantage because they're playing the Packers. I think had they been playing, the Niners or the Rams or any other team, I think that it would be more of an advantage than it is. But the Packers are so used to playing there in cold weather. Lambeau Field itself is ridiculously cold. They know how to play there, so I think it's not as much of an advantage as others, but it'll still have its advantages. It's still a hard place to go and play. Those fans are very passionate.
Yeah, I will say I do think if the Packers do win, I don't see them advancing past the divisional round. I think the only way they could possibly, go through to the conference championship is if they play the Panthers. No offense, Keg. If they advance past the Rams, I think you to put them against the Niners, the Eagles, the Rams, the Seahawks. I don't think the Packers beat them, but I just think in this one matchup, I think a team they know well. I could see that. I think if Packers won as well. I know it was in Lambeau, but so they know how to beat them even if it was on the road. So for me, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Managed to, I am home for the weekend for my birthday. My parents have told me, it's your birthday. You can choose what you watch on TV. And at 9:30, I've told them we're watching Panthers Rams, and then if you want to in the morning, Eagles, obviously they won't stay up for the whole thing. If they want to go bed at like 10:30, but certainly, looking forward to these games a lot. And so these Packers and Bears fans, let's head over to our last list, I should say, of guests from the show and friends of the show who want to predict this game. Starting off with Alan Shearer. No, it's not Alan Shearer. Our first guest is going to be. You could argue maybe he's the same kind of level when it comes to NFL UK royalty. Our first voice note comes from Ben Isaacs.
I'm Ben Isaacs, writer, broadcaster, author of The American Football Revolution: How Britain Fell in Love with the NFL. And I think the Bears-Packers wildcard game is going to be incredibly tight, just like the two regular season games that were instant classics. They both went down to the wire. These are two teams that are very different, but they're very evenly matched. They both had injury problems that have caused them issues during the course of the season. The Bears at one time had 7 starters missing on defense. For Green Bay, it's been fewer injuries, but the injuries have been to more significant players. Micah Parsons is obviously the big one. That defense has not looked the same since. Jordan Love obviously has missed some time. He'll be playing. Because of Jordan Love's playoff experience, I'm going to say that Green Bay are going to win this game. Something like 23-20, but I'd be amazed if this doesn't go down to the final minute.
Hi Andy and the Across the Pod listeners, James Gowers here, co-host for the Irish Bears Network. I've been asked to give my score predictions for the big one on Saturday, or for us over in the UK, the very early hours of Sunday morning. It is the trilogy, it is the third bout between the Green Bay Packers and my Chicago Bears. And I can't lie, I'm a little bit nervous for this one. You can never write off this rivalry, but I do think that the Bears are going to get this done. I think what we've seen from Ben Johnson and the duo of this guy, Caleb Williams, has been fantastic. He's shown that he has been a real clutch quarterback and can get it done, especially with the weapons around him like Odunze being back, Loveland, Burden, DJ Moore, and the run game that we've got. So really excited for this one. I've got Bears winning 27-21 over the Green Bay Packers. Let's move on to that next round and keep this playoff run going. And bear down.
And there we are. That is our voice note or video message from Bears International Fan of the Year from 2024, James Gowers. But there we are. That is the end of the show, our NFC Wildcard Round predictions. First of all, Keg, thank you for coming on today.
Not a problem. Always a pleasure. Always happy to get the call and ask if I want to take part. And the answer is always going to be yes. Although next time I might have to think twice about it because you teased me with an Alan Shearer message there and you've let me down.
Well, always good having you on, mate. And of course, those who are listening or watching, don't forget to pay attention to his own social media as well as the Panthers Magpie. And if you are a Newcastle fan as well, head over to the Magpie channel. And Sam, for you, once again, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, always willing to come on and talk about the Rams and hopefully end up with another win. I think last time I came on, it was when we played the Eagles and lost. So hopefully this time it's a better result at the end of it.
Well, it should be a good game. And of course, you can catch Sam on Heard of the Line as well as his Asleep at Work college football podcast as well. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. Don't forget to use code Andy5 at checkout at fantasygameday.app. And this has been our guest today in Keg and Sam. And we'll see you guys for our wildcard round review. See you then.